Alrighty, everyone. Thanks for joining us. My name is Johnny Girardi. I'm DataSelf's founder and CEO, and I have with me here Clark Walliser, is one of our BI consultants. Today, we're going to be talking about DataSelf Analytics for Sage X3 or Enterprise Management. We have been doing this, doing analytics in data warehousing for about 14 years in the Sage market. With X3, we've been working for about 2 years, and we have some exciting new developments to share with you today. I'm gonna let Clark take over, and then later I'll get back to also do my part.
Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you might be. Last week we had a panelist from an attendee from New Zealand, so it's all over the time zones there. Wanted to talk about what is DataSelf? How does it? Where does it fit in? What are the challenges we are trying to address? I come from a background. I was an ERP consultant for over 20 years. I've also been an end user in ERP system, an ERP end user. So I've been on both sides of the line, and I have dealt with many challenges in getting the information I needed when I needed it in a way that I could use it. And that's what has attracted me to DataSelf. I have known Johnny for over 10 years, and we have talked, and I've slowly started seeing the vision, and eventually I came to work to join the vision. So here are some of the issues we deal with. Reports and dashboards. You have your ERP system, CRM system, HR system, document control, engineering, all these different systems, and they all have their different data views and data portals all over the place. How can you see them all in one place? That's where a tool like DataSelf comes in. It gives you the ability to consolidate all of your information into one location in an online portal that you can get to from any computer or mobile device. And it's powered by SQL in the back end, so the data is fast and stable. That, to me, is worth a lot instead of going to the different systems to try to see the information, and then you can never see it combined together. You don't even have a chance. So this is the first challenge that I think DataSelf addresses. Next slide there, Johnny. Consolidation, a big issue. I'm sure you've all migrated from one system to another, unless you've been on X3 for 20 years. That'd be interesting. And one of the common things with migrating from one system to the other is, where is the history, all that historical data? Rarely does that get migrated to the new system. So how can you get a full picture combining your historical data with your current data? Consolidation is one of the things DataSelf can do very well. We pull all of the information from the different systems into one SQL database. We can build consolidated views, so at the touch of a button, you can see all of the information together. And all of the consolidation is being done behind the scenes in the SQL data warehouse. So if you're running a report, you don't have to wait while it does a manual consolidation while it's running. Much simpler. You can also consolidate data from different systems. You might have a CRM system with opportunities, an ERP system with sales orders, and you want to be able to combine that information together. That's another feature of this. You might have multiple companies in your X3. And do you have the ability to easily see all of the companies consolidated in one view? Those are the challenges, and that's where we provide a solution. Next slide.
And Clark, just putting something in the consolidation, that we also have some clients that they have X3 in some other ERP system like Dynamics or anything else, and it's going to take a while for them to bring into a single ERP, like maybe all companies into X3.
Right, the phased approach, yeah.
Yeah, so for reporting purposes, we can bring the data from the other ERP systems into the data warehouse, consolidate with the X3, and then people can see consolidated financials, they can see sales, services, whatever reports, even though the ERP systems are different. So the data warehousing is not only for X3 multi-company, any kind of multi-company system can be brought into the data warehouse.
Before we move on to ad hoc, I just want to add on to this. One of the things that attracted me to DataSelf as an ERP consultant was I've done data consolidations before, that's my job. But with each different system, you've got different field names, table names, different things. And then how do you decide on, well, what's the consolidated field name going to be, etc. DataSelf handles that automatically. We've got that all built in, so you don't have to take time. You don't have to spend time trying to figure out its invoice number in one system and invoice ID in another system, and what's it going to be called in the combined system. That's what DataSelf does to get you up and running and get results as fast as possible. One of the other things I like is ad hoc reporting. Lots of times I'm not sure exactly what I'm looking for, so I start noodling around, playing with the system, and I just pull things in different ways until I get what I like or what I think I need. Not every system has a handy reporting tool for that, or querying tool. With DataSelf on the back end and Tableau or Power BI on the front end, you can easily just take your data from the data warehouse, create a quick view, swap views, change fields and pivot points, etc., until you get the kind of information you need. And you get that data within seconds, not within minutes. It's not pulling the original ERP source or other data source, putting a load on that. It's all coming from the data warehouse, so it does not impact anybody else. That is of immense value to me when I'm just searching and not sure exactly what I want. And I don't want to take go through 15,000 reports just to find if one report's something close to what I want. And this is a useful tool that is built into DataSelf. Next slide.
All right, just also an interesting example on the ad hoc world. A few months ago, I was visiting a client and I was participating in a meeting where they were bringing these DataSelf printouts, big pages. I mean, huge pages with the charts and the reports. And the cool thing was seeing them was they came prepared for the meeting with all the information they needed to discuss. The meeting was going through and discussing the topics that they usually discussed. But commonly, there are questions that pop up that before were never thought about, and they need to drill down and slice and dice some of the data that was printed on the paper. But the business analyst had a notebook connected to the big screen. So when they had a question, they had to drill down into one of those dashboards that was, that was printed out. The business analyst went to the notebook, opened the same report in DataSelf, and went to the edit mode and starts to slice and dice it and drill down. And it was fun to see them drilling into questions. They were not prepared for that particular meeting and just get the answer done. If you don't have a solution that is that easy, that provides ad hoc analysis, most likely they will have to either wait until the next meeting when someone would come back with the answer to those questions, or they will have to wing it. Hey, we don't have the answer. We have part of the information. Let's just make a decision based on incomplete information. And nowadays, winging it or waiting is no longer effective. So having a tool that is really empowering for ad hoc analysis is awesome. And you'll see very shortly how this works with DataSelf.
One of the challenges of getting custom reporting and complex reporting is it takes a lot of work and it's not cheap. Can you imagine commissioning your consultant or your business analyst to build you 5,000 reports? That's a big task. One of the benefits of DataSelf is it comes out of the box with over 5,000 templates built in. And these are reports that have been developed over time, a clearinghouse of data views and questions that hundreds of other customers have asked. And these are different views that give you ways of looking at your business that you might not have thought of before. It's a lot more effective to start out of the box with a foundation to work off of. Next step.
Another insight, if you allow me. Many of our clients with X3, when they joined DataSelf, some of their complaints from X3 was reporting was labor intensive. They were using some built-in BI offer from X3, but every time that something needed to be changed, it was a lot of hours. All the BI competitors that we know in the X3 world, when you start your X3 project, you come with, a small set of, reports. It's good for the very basics, but anything that you need beyond that is built from scratch. And, nowadays, people have a lot of questions. So what happens is in the course of years, people spend a lot of time building reports in X3. And like Clark said, with DataSelf, the starting point is 5,000. We cover financials, payables, receivables, sales, purchase order, inventory, services. There's a lot of things available on day one. So if you go with DataSelf, the amount of labor required is going to be dramatically reduced because of the out-of-the-box. Plus, DataSelf is much easier to use. So when you do need to build new reports that are not available yet, it will take a fraction of the time. So it's a big challenge that I've heard from any X3 clients, and we can help a lot.
Okay. Next. What we don't know. You don't, that's that dilemma. You don't know what you don't know. You don't know if, have you asked all the right questions? And this is again where I come back to the 5,000 plus templates that come out of the box with DataSelf Enterprise that is a clearinghouse, as I said, of years of other people looking at their businesses in different ways than you might have. And Johnny's told me multiple times about stories of existing customers that they spend all this time on a customer report. I want to do this. Then later on, they look at the existing reports and something pops up about that answers a question they didn't even know to ask yet. And they're just shocked. That's a lot of value. When you think about it, you can take a look at just perusing and to get different views and ways of looking at your business that you might not have thought of before.
Yeah, and Clark, let me just give you one story because to me it was so inspirational of this. What we don't know sometimes is more important than what we know. One of our clients a couple of years ago, when we started the DataSelf project, their main challenge was financial consolidation. They have multi-company, multi-currency. They were spending almost 100 hours per month to prepare consolidated reports for their board meetings. So when we started DataSelf, they asked us, can you just please automate this process as much as possible? We want to free those hours to do analysis and more work than just doing data prep. Make a long story short, it took us 5 months to untangle the beast, code it, automate it, train people. So 5 months later, the CFO was, hallelujah, it's working great. Every day the reports are consolidated. I don't have to wait for the end of the month. Those hours, they're free to do something else. But then the CFO went to analyze, to just kind of browse through the out of the box, and he found a report showing some inventory issues that they had, and he called me, Johnny, I just found this report. If I had seen this report 5 months ago on day one, it was ready on day one, I would have told you, forget financial consolidation. It's a problem we have, which is costly, but we're managing today painfully. We have bigger fish to fry. So he told me what this problem that they didn't know was costing a lot more than 100 hours per month of labor around reporting. And that's part of the out of the box. We have a lot of these KPIs showing important trends that other businesses, ask us to build. And as Clark said, sometimes what you don't know can be more important than what you know. And we have a lot of inspiration on day one.
How does this all work? It starts on the left-hand side with the source databases. You might have an ERP, a CRM. You can even do Google Analytics. I'm not a big fan of social media, but yes, you can do social media too. And you can pull that data, and instead of having to pull those data sources every time individually when you run a report, we pull all of that data into a single data warehouse powered by Microsoft SQL, so it's industrial strength. And our secret sauce is the DataSelf ETL, Extract, Transform, Load application that pulls all the data from the data sources and harmonizes the data so that they all have the same names and structure so that the data can work together. Once that has all been transformed, and I call it pre-digested, it is stored in the data warehouse, then it moves up to, in this case for Tableau or Power BI, into the cloud, into your cloud repository, Tableau server or Power BI service. And it's sitting there ready for you on the end to do your reporting for actionable insights, whatever tool you're using, Power BI or Tableau, etc. And you don't have to pull from the original sources. You've got it all consolidated, optimized in the data warehouse, and stored in the cloud, ready for you at any time. Johnny, it's all yours.
All right, thank you. All right, Clark, thank you for the introduction. So I guess some people are probably eager to see the actual product. So let's jump right into the presentation. Let me bring my browser here, and actually let me just start from scratch. So the first thing with DataSelf that we always focus on is to give every person in the organization that want to have access to the reports and dashboards what we call a 360-degree view of what they care. So if I'm a C-level person, like the CEO, the CFO, typically I want to see key performance indicators across the whole organization. This is one example of a 360-degree view for a CFO. One of our clients, the CFO, actually built this dashboard from scratch, and this person looks at cash flow projection, orders to ship, opportunities from CRM, aging, revenues, Google Analytics data, financial metrics, many of them coming from DRP, some coming from Excel sheets. Doesn't matter. It's data that belongs to the company, and the CFO wants to see every day when they start their day on his mobile device. And the idea with this 360-degree view dashboards is look at the big picture. If everything is normal, everything is working, you go about your day. But if something is really good or really bad, typically you want to see more details about it and perhaps take an action. Like in this example, I'm seeing a red bar for my inventory. Inventory is too high. What the heck? I click on this bar. The solution drills into a subsection of my dashboard. I was looking at the main dashboard, now I'm looking at the inventory. And all of this is highly customized. In this example, this CFO wants to see the top 10 products by cost on hand. So every one of these products, there's a bar, and if the block, the little segment is red, it means I have too much on hand. And then I have an aha moment. Hey, look at this. My West warehouse just has too many items on hand. And right now, maybe I need to call or contact the warehouse manager to ask what's going on, right? In real life, when you need to contact someone else, sometimes you don't remember their phone number, their email address, and you need to find that information. And if you get distracted, sometimes you just forget about it and you never take an action. So with DataSelf, we have many tools to help bridge the gap between the aha moment and an action. Like in this case, if I click a label, in this case, the West, and I click call warehouse manager or email, it takes the action right from within the dashboard. Even if I'm using a mobile device, it's the same dashboard, and I click call the warehouse manager or call the customer, whatever it is, from the mobile device, it plays the call. So shortening the time from an insight from taking an action. At the end of the day, dashboards, reports, analytics is about inspiring people to make better decisions and take an action, and shortening the process between those two. Some of the things that DataSelf is really powerful, like Clark was saying, is again the ability to bring all the data together and allow business people to navigate from one point in their data to something else. Cash flow. I click on the cash flow. Suppose I want to see what's going on with my cash flow. I drill down into the cash flow projection, where I can see a bigger picture, more details. Here I see all the transactions, moving forward, the AP, AR. And look at this, there is a transaction that is in red, it's alert. What it means, this invoice is being disputed. As a CFO, should I care? You know what I mean? If this customer doesn't pay, will it, cause my cash flow maybe to cross my line of credit? And it's going to give me a headache? Maybe, I don't know. I can click on this transaction and say exclude and make a what if scenario. If I exclude this payment, what happens? Oh, it's going to cross my line of credit. Well, that's going to cause me an issue. So maybe I need to get involved. Maybe I need to call the customer, call the salespeople, whatever it takes to be sure that this particular issue is not going to cause me my headache. So building this dashboard that provides view across the whole organization, the whole data silos, allowing people to drill down and slice and dice it without knowing complex things is critical so they can make better decisions and be on top of important initiatives. So this is one example of a 360-degree view for C-level people. Let me show another example for a salesperson. So now is also the idea of when a salesperson starts their day or throughout the day, they want to see how they're doing, they go to the dashboard. They can see the major metrics they're responsible for. It can be anything. It can be CRM, like sales velocity metrics. It can be commission. It can be quotas. Front and center, you can put things they need to be doing today or maybe this week, closing orders, calling opportunities. Top right is a very critical part that's in so many times we add a lot of value, is calculating commission. A lot of organizations spend a lot of time doing commission calculation, typically at the end of the month using Excel sheets. And then they announce to the salespeople their numbers. And what happens? Some salespeople don't agree. And they start, getting calls and emails to figure out what's going on. And there's a lot of waste of energy around data preparation and being sure everything is correct. With DataSelf, we can take the logic of calculating commissions and let the data warehouse do the heavy lifting so that all the data prep, the classification of the transactions, the payments and whatnot, go to the right bucket, go to the right percentage, go to the right rep. Doesn't matter if you have one rep or if you split commission. Let the server, the data warehouse, do the heavy lifting so your salespeople will always get their commission calculated every day. They don't have to end at the end of the month, and the numbers are correct. And if they want to see why certain numbers are not matching with what they think, they can take the report, drill down to details, and find the answer without having to call and bug the people who usually do the reports in Excel. So commission calculation is a big area that for many businesses, we can help a lot. Now, in this kind of dashboard for salespeople, we also usually have what we call the hot and getting cold performers. Who's hot? What products or services are hot? Where is hot? And who's getting cold? And pretty much you point and click. So if I want to see who's hot, you click the who, and then you go to this out-of-the-box report. This report is pretty much ready on day one that shows you the customers with the biggest sales in this period. What is this period? Right now, this period is this year to date. But you could see quarter to date, month to date, and moving windows. Very easy to change the period that you want to look at. And on the right side, you have the customers who are growing the most since last period. In this case, since last year to date. So these customers are perhaps not big enough to be a top customer, but they are growing the most, so we define them as who's hot. So this is one example of an out-of-the-box report that typically for companies who deal with recurring customers is good to know the biggest by sales and the biggest by sales growth. And we have the same perspective by product, so that's what's hot. By region, it can be country, it can be state, it can be city. And we also have the opposite side, in who's getting cold or what's getting cold. The idea here is who might be leaving your business. Sometimes when you look at the top decline, so these customers are declining the most in sales since last period. Again, I'm looking on a year-to-date basis. These customers have the biggest decline. Is there something wrong? Maybe not, maybe it's fine. But sometimes customers are leaving and the salesperson doesn't know until it's too late. So knowing who have the biggest decline, by product, by customer is a big initiative. If you put the mouse over the customers, you can see in the middle section which products or services are driving the biggest decline. So very interactive for people to see who's declining and why. The right side has what we call the no sales. So these customers were buying last year to date, but not at all this period. So if you care about those things, it's very good to have this kind of report available right in front of salespeople's hands, so they can be on top of those initiatives and be sure if something is wrong to be proactive before it's too late. Let me show a little bit something on the P&L. P&L budgeting. Many clients that come from the Sage world come to us because the built-in financial reporting budgeting is limited or is too time consuming. Let me show a little bit how it works in DataSelf. So this is an example of a P&L. Right now I'm looking at the P&L for 2018, and I'm seeing data through the period 7. So, 2018 through the period 7. What if I want to start to change this report and slice and dice it? Well, one thing is easy to just drill down from the year level to see the periods and the total. So very straightforward. If I want to compare years side by side, I can just pick years side by side, and right there you see the numbers in front of you. Maybe you want to see how you're doing versus the budget, or is it growing since last period? You just pick and choose, and then the solution will show the posted and the variances. Very straightforward, very easy. What if you want to drill down? Usually drill down is a multi-page process. When you drill down, you go into a separate page, and you're no longer looking at what you started. For instance, hey, payroll is going up. I didn't hire anyone. Why is it going up? Well, let's see. You click payroll. Now what happens is you're still looking at the P&L, payroll, and now you see the balances for every payroll account for every year fiscal period in this segment. And then suppose, hey, I want to actually drill down further. Now I click expand, and now I'm drilling down to the batch level. So I'm looking at every single batch, every transaction day, descriptions and whatnot. And if you look at this particular number here and you get a call, you get distracted. This happens a lot with me. When I come back to this report, if I cannot see where I started in all the clicks that I did to get to this point, I might not even remember why I'm looking at this page. We call this DataSelf with single page analytics. You can actually see where you started, all the clicks you did to get to this point, all the filters. So if you get distracted, when you come back to this single page analytics, you can see where you are, why, and hopefully continue with your analysis, make a decision, and take an action. So this is our fairly new, we have this functionality for about 8 months. It's called Financials with Single Page Analytics. I want to show one more example here on this DataSelf right now. I'm showing right now what is called DataSelf Enterprise. And as Clark mentioned, we have more than 5,000 reports and dashboards. If you come to this main page, these are the areas that we have connected for different ERP systems, including X3. But what if I want to build a report from scratch? So completely from scratch. Well, I can come to my data sources. I want to build, let's say, a sales report. I'm going to say a new workbook. So what I'm going to do now is not for everyone. Many users, they don't want to bother how to build reports from scratch, but I want to show how easy it is. It's mostly drag and drop. Suppose I want to see a report showing sales details this month. So I want to see by customer and by product. So customers are here. I want to see customer, I drag and drop. All my customers, I want to see sales, drag and drop. So all sales from all my customers. I want to see my top customers. So I just sort in a descending order. Okay, cool. I want to see sales this month. So let me put invoice date. I have sales by year. Let me drill down all the way from the year to the quarter to the month level. So now I'm seeing my whole company history all the way to the latest month, so through August. Well, I don't want to see everything. I only want to see this month. Now I drag and drop date to my filters. Now I have a filter on the right that I can pick the beginning and end date, or I can select relative date, which is something related to today's date. I want to see today's date. I want to see this month. You just pick and choose, and now you're filtering the report to only show this month. Or maybe I want to see the last 3 months. Just pick and choose, and the report will show. Maybe you want to see years, quarters, just pick and choose. Well, let me go back to this month only. I also want to see sales by customer, by product. Well, you just have to find product and you drag and drop. If you know how to drag and drop, you can do it. It's that easy. You just drag and drop, point and click, and you can build a lot of reports just with that functionality. Some reports will be more sophisticated. They'll require more expertise. Absolutely. But on our experience, about 70% of the custom reports are either tackled out of the box with the 5,000 we have, or by just doing what I'm doing right now, which is drag and dropping. So that's my report, sales by custom product this month. What if I want to see sales by territory? Well, let's say I want to see ship to, state. I want to see invoice size and sales. I want to see all of this on a map. Just point and click, choose map. There it is on a map. I see bigger bubbles, bigger sales, and the bubbles are sliced by large, medium, and small invoices. Finally, I want to put these two reports together in a dashboard. I drag and drop into my dashboard, and in a few clicks, I was able to build from scratch a new report. And if I want to share with the rest of my people, and I'm suppose I'm the VP of sales, I just click, save. I'm going to call whatever, sales by territory. I can save into different folders. Once I save, that's it. Everyone in my sales team would have access to this report. And then I can start interacting with it. Suppose I want to see only how sales is doing on the Northwest. I select those territories, and the report at the bottom is filtered. Very interactive, very easy, very empowering. So that's one way how people can easily go to, like the meetings that I mentioned before. You can take an existing report or build something from scratch on an ad hoc basis, just like that. We also have some new developments. We have the DataSelf Lite. DataSelf Lite is in beta version, but the idea is to make super inexpensive for you, Sage X3 clients, to take advantage and start getting value from DataSelf. When you go to DataSelf Lite, you can go to also these dashboards that are very interactive. Let me just reload it. So this is a product sales dashboard. I'm seeing my products, and I'm seeing the total sales this year versus last year. The blue bars are this year's sales, and the orange bar are last year's sales. And this is showing decline or growth. So red is decline, black is growth. And then, hey, what if I want to see my top products by sales growth? I can sort this by top growth. And now what I see is these are the products we did the biggest growth. And who am I selling them to? I can just pick a bunch of products here. And when I select my top, let's say 6 products, it changes the curve showing how I'm selling my top 6 products in this past 2 years, and who are my top 20 customers buying my top products. Very interactive. If you want to do extensive ad hoc analysis, and Clark loves this particular query, is this particular tab provides more than 1 million ways to slice and dice your sales. So right now I'm looking, I would say, sales by salesperson for 3 periods. What if I want to see sales, let's say, by territory instead? I'm going to choose sales by state. There's 10 different ways that I can slice the first column. I'm going to choose state. So now I'm seeing sales by state. Hey, I want to see sales by state by customer. I can now expand my report. And for the second column, I'm going to choose customer. And now I can see by state, by customer, how I'm doing. What if I want to see how I'm selling by state, by customer, by product? You expand it again, and now you choose something else. In this case, I'm going to choose product. And you can keep on doing this all the way to the bottom. There's 10 entry in at each one of these. There are, let's say, hey, what if I want to see sales and gross profit percentage or anything else? You just pick and choose, press apply. Now the report shows for all of the state, customer, and product, sales and gross profit for those 2 months. If you see all the possible combinations of all of these drop downs, all of these filters, there are again more than 1 million ways to slice and dice your data and you do not need any special training. This is even easier than drag and drop. You're not dragging and dropping, you're pretty much choosing drop-down list. It's really empowering. And overall, the Lite version, again, is inexpensive. It provides a lot of simple ways to look at your data, very empowering, very interactive. This is like a territory analysis. How am I doing on the West Coast? You can choose the West Coast. And when they choose that, then it shows at the bottom that angle from a branch standpoint, what customers are in those territories, what products, who are my salespeople. Oh, look at this, what's going on? This customer was declining. I can click on this customer. Now I further drill down and show only for this customer. And finally, if I want to see transaction details associated to anything, I can click transaction details, and that would show in more detail at the bottom every invoice line detail associated to that particular customer in whatever you selected. Very easy, very empowering. Now, the other functionality that's really exciting is natural language querying. The idea is to allow users to ask questions and find them answers, usually in plain English. For instance, I want to see sales by salesperson. So, gaps. I want to see the sum of my sales by salesperson. I click OK. And now it shows me by salesperson all sales. But these numbers are too big. That doesn't make sense. Oh, yeah. I mean, I just need to in 2019. So let's put in 2019. And then it gives me the options. And I want to choose invoice date in 2019. There it is. That's more normal. That's my sales by salesperson 2019. Well, I want to break down by month. Well, let's type in by month. And then it shows by invoice date month. Yes, click it. And there it is. For every month, for every salesperson, I see their line. Well, what if I want to see in a different format, bar chart? So much better for me. I like this way. And I want to sort it. So let's sort by salesperson in a descending order by sales. There it is. So top salespeople at the top. In a few words, using plain English, I was able to build this report from scratch, and I don't need to know anything about analytics. And if I like this report, I can click. I'm going to save as. I'm going to call natural language 1, just to make it simple. Click save. Now, everyone in my team, I can tell, hey, people, look for ML1. When they search, they can find the report saved in the portal. They click the sheet 1, and they go right back into the query I just created. Easy to create, easy to collaborate. And that's pretty much our product presentation. I hope you had fun. Let me go to the next slide to wrap it up, our presentation. So as I mentioned, we have two types of editions. We have the Enterprise, which has a full-fledged data warehouse, can be extensively customized. If you have complex reporting problems, if you spend a lot of time with reports, the Enterprise is for you. If you're not so sure, if you don't know how it's going to work for you, DataSelf Lite is a way to get started. Right now it's in beta version, but it's very inexpensive and it's very easy to get a lot of value to see if it's going to be worth it for you to invest in the long run with DataSelf. With that being said, I'm going to open the question and answers. And if you have any questions, you can use the webinar panel on the right side. There is a little chatting box. Click your questions, and I'm going to be addressing them right now. All right, let's see. So we already have some questions. So the first question is, can you embed the dashboards you are showing within X3? Yes, absolutely. They're just web widgets that you can take the URL. There's a function that you click, export any of these dashboards. You copy the URL, you go to X3, you create a widget inside of X3, you use that URL, and that's how it's embedded. Any application that provides ways to embed web widgets can be used. Salesforce, X3, and other applications. Another question is, how is licensing and permissions coordinated with X3? Does a user need to have a license to both DataSelf and X3 to access reports? If not, how is access to X3 data controlled? Skip, very good question. So the good and the bad news. The bad news is no, DataSelf has its own licensing model. So every user who have DataSelf must have their own user license. But the good news, we can actually attach the credentials to your Active Directory. So once people log to X3, we can actually connect the dots so they don't have to re-enter credentials. It's called single sign-on functionality. And the security functionality is really robust, and we actually have to kind of replicate the rules you have in X3 as far as what people can see in DataSelf, but we can replicate the same rules. It's fairly straightforward. And another good news is people will be able to access X3 reports even outside of X3. So if you have certain users that are not X3 users, but they need information to X3, like board members sometimes C-level people, they don't have even a login to X3. They don't have to. DataSelf can be embedded in X3 for those users using X3. And for those users not using X3 and they want to see their data from X3, from the payroll, from whatever it is, they'll have their own DataSelf credentials to access the reports and dashboards. If you have more questions, Skip, about it, we can get on off the call and go into more of those details. Good question, appreciate that. What else here? Let's see. Another question here. Some of my X3 reports take over 15 minutes to run. We have to run some of them overnight. How do you address performance issues? Carl, thanks for your question. Data warehousing is primarily the main answer to that. And actually many of our X3 clients, they came because they were complaining that reports were slow to run in X3 and they would impact the performance of X3. So like you said, would have to run overnight, or if they have to run right now, it would just drag X3, we almost crawl, it would be very hard to use. And that's primarily because you're running reports live against X3 database. With DataSelf data warehousing, you bring the data outside of X3. We put in the data warehouse that has been optimized for reporting, and we pretty much guarantee, no matter how much data you have, multi-company, if you can have millions, 100 million records, doesn't matter how much data you have, our reports run under 10 seconds. That's our benchmark. A report that takes longer than 10 seconds, most likely people will not run because it's just too long for too many people. So we usually address performance issues because we really use an enterprise data warehouse with tools like Tableau and Power BI in the front end. Carl, if you want to discuss more details about those things, let's take an offline and get the call. We have a bunch of questions. I'm going to answer one more because we're running out of time here. From Kelly, how do you compare against Sage Enterprise Intelligence? I don't like to make comparisons because it's usually, you have to see on a one-on-one basis why it's not working for some companies and why with DataSelf might work. All the clients so far we have from X3, they came from using SCI. And their main complaints with SCI was slow and complex. Those are main complaints. We don't know why and how, but with DataSelf, those problems were solved. Again, slow, it's not in DataSelf, reports running under 10 seconds. And our solution is overall a lot less work because out of the box, we have a lot of reports done. In customizing reports, it's easier. We use Tableau and Power BI. They are the gold standard for ease of use. Not only my opinion, but definitely they're way easier than other competitors in the mid-market, in my opinion, again, even SCI. In our data warehouse is a more mature, more well-developed. It's been around for a long time and requires little programming. So overall, maintaining DataSelf takes a lot less effort. Folks, we're running out of time. We budget 45 minutes. So here is our contact information, Clark's and myself's email. This is being recorded, so we're going to be sharing the recording later with you. Feel free to share it. If you have more questions or comments about DataSelf, please feel free to email us or contact, and we'll be glad to discuss if DataSelf is a good fit for you. Thank you again for joining us, and have a great day.